here, Sue L is here, Fiona, Ron K, Evan is here. Singer, Karen, Laurel, and David.
What? And Robin.
And Rob. And Alice. Okay. Approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Second,
Second.
Fiona. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Approval of the first minutes, March 25th.
So moved.
Rob, Fiona. Second, Gary. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes of April 22nd. Donna, Gary.
Bless you. Bless you.
It's not in the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Public participation. Members of the public and staff may bring to the committee's attention information, ideas, or matters of concern related to all the duties and responsibilities of this committee. This committee will not allow comments regarding specific staff members or personal grievances. Time for individual remarks will be proportionate according to the number of speakers and will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker unless extended by the chair. Any public comments?
Yes, sir. I would, please, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Good evening, folks. I'm Joe Toner. I reside in Quaker Hill, Connecticut. I'm the executive director of Connecticut State Building Trades. I was going to have a member, one of the ex-employees that worked for Ferguson, join us tonight. He couldn't make it. He lives in Baltic, Connecticut. He's 62 years of age and he's still working. And he couldn't make it from work at his new job to here. So I just wanted to read an email he sent. This is in his own words to the committee for consideration. Dear members, my name is Rich Spencer. I worked at Ferguson Mechanical for 10 years plus or minus as a plumbing foreman. After leaving them, I filed a complaint with the Connecticut Department of Labor, which led them to being found guilty of stealing from our retirement fund. But only a portion was returned to the men. In light of their past behavior, I would suggest that the town award these contracts to union contractors, perhaps in the form of a PLA. In this way, all the workers would be fairly paid and not stolen from as I was. Respectfully, Rich Spencer. So what I wanted to just quickly talk about, if I could for a minute, is I have the news release from the Ferguson for the $3.3 million that they stole in retirement benefits from their employees. The real number was probably around 9 million. 7 million was what they started at. They negotiated down to 3.5 million. And unfortunately, these are the people that stood in the wake of Ferguson's greed. Lee Ferguson was the president, and the owner, is currently in jail. His son was running the company as well as Lee during the time of the theft of this retirement benefits. And right now he is running Ferguson. So one of the things I just want to quickly address with the committee tonight is wage theft in the construction industry. Connecticut has the most lenient rules or laws against wage theft. Ferguson in 1993 was found guilty of stealing $63,000 in the state of New York. 3 different counties, it was over $20,000 for a total of $63,000. Ferguson was debarred for 6 years to bid on any public projects in the state of New York for that time period. In Massachusetts, if Ferguson stole the $3.3 million that he found to steal in Connecticut from his employees, he pays triple damages on that money and he'd be put in jail for a lot longer than he is here. He's in jail here because of the federal charges on the ERISA side of the retirement funds. Well, I just want to say one thing. I think a project labor agreement, as you know, is a safe way to go, not only for the quality and making sure the residents are included, but it also is going to make sure that people are paid properly on the job. You have the finest construction manager, in my estimation, in O&G in the state of Connecticut, but they don't do compliance on the job. They gather certified payrolls just to make sure that by law that they have to have the payrolls on file. those payrolls don't have somebody online on staff for compliance to make sure that the benefits and the wages are being paid properly. Unfortunately, we do that in the union industry. But after the fact, after the contracts are awarded and the folks are on the job and the folks weren't paid properly, we go back and we claw back, and then the Department of Labor gets involved. But that's after the job is built, the school's built, and then fortunately for the open shop contractors, we get money for their employees due to the unscrupulous behavior of their bosses. So I just wanted to share this, and I don't know if you want to take this for record, Mr. Chairman. If these two, maybe you could pass. I didn't bring enough copies. I could leave them. I'll leave them here for you. But I just wanted to share this with you because I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that Connecticut slaps everybody on the wrist. You get caught stealing $1 in the state of Connecticut in the construction industry, you pay back a quarter. It's been going on for years. Massachusetts doesn't have the problems that we have in Connecticut because it goes through the Attorney General's office and people are actually put in jail for wage theft, and they pay triple the damages. So I just like to have you folks keep that in mind. It doesn't happen on the union side. We make sure our people are paid properly. We have fund offices where the money is submitted, and we do audits annually on all the money for all our members. So I just wanted to share that with you tonight. I know I've seen a lot of you for too much, and you must be thinking, I don't want to see this guy again. But I live all the way in Waterford, so I get a long ride back. But I do appreciate the time, and I'll leave this here for information for the committee.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the time, everyone.
Anybody else? Amy.
Hello, everyone.
You're up.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. We spent the past couple of weeks reviewing as a team at SLAM and also with ONG and CSG the two options for the floor plan that we looked at our last meeting. So we're going to run through that recap and kind of how we formulated a recommendation, and then we'll look at just the one plan that we'd like to recommend to you. We'll look at the floor plans, how it works on the site, and then Julia will present the exterior materials that we're thinking of for the project. She's got some renderings of the building. She's got some options and physical samples as well for us to take a look at. And then when we're done with that portion of the design presentation, ONG has a revised project schedule to review. So this is a reminder of where we left off at the last meeting 2 weeks ago. We had talked about option one, which included a new, we'll call it field house style 3-bay gymnasium, and how that worked with the site and challenged us in that we would have a 2-phase construction period and during that construction, you would lose the space to have PE class. So we looked also at option 2, which is a very similar layout of the building, but where the building ties into the site, we're able to incorporate a renovation of the existing gym structure and shell, and that we would completely renovate the 2-story locker room area as well as the gymnasium. That would allow for you to have a new middle school gymnasium built as a part of phase 1 construction. And while the remaining gym area, which is for the high school, is under construction, the high schoolers could use the middle school gym on a temporary basis. We did our due diligence though. We didn't just simply go with option 2. We took a look at the site and how the buildings relate to the elevation and the grading, because site work will be a major part of this construction, in that the existing gymnasium and the existing main floor are at one level. The parking lot is lower, and still the pond area is even lower. So we'll have to really be careful about where to site the building in elevation. So we looked at option 1 and tried to discern how much cut and how much fill there would be on site work if we were to put the building in this location at the first study was with it at one level, and then the other one I believe had a 2-story sort of a stepped version of the main level, but it kept all of the building program on one level and stepped down between the middle school and the high school. We then looked at similar options for option 2, saving the gym. This is a little bit more challenging because the gymnasium is up at the high point at about 672 grade elevation, and the pond is at 658 or so. So the building itself, we would like the main floor of both the middle school and the high school to be at one level. That eliminates the need for ramps, for small lifts, and less elevators. So we looked at 2 options, option 2.1 and option 2.2. One of them keeps the whole main floor at one level and drops a lower level below portion of the high school wing, just to take advantage of that natural grade. So you can have a walkout at a lower level, full daylight, and comfortable spaces, but take advantage of the stepping slope. The other one is where we left the existing gymnasium, the new gymnasium, and the middle school wing at that higher level, 672, dropped the cafeteria and auditorium down by about 6 feet, and then further dropped the high school academic wing down by another 2 feet. So there would be 2 steps in the main level, but it would keep everything at one level and not require an elevator to a lower level basement area. In looking at this, option 2.1 sort of kind of rose to the top in terms of reduction of site work and in terms of the cost reduction of being able to reuse the existing gym structure. So I'll let O&G discuss the savings, but it's almost $1 million. So going with option 2 and reuse of that gym structure is really where we were led for cost savings. And then also between these 2 options, option 2.1, in order to utilize the existing site as best we can. So the first floor plan, again, all at one level, and that's the advantage of option 2.1, is that overall, the building footprint was able to be reduced. So from our plan last week to, or 2 weeks ago to this one, you might notice that there's a larger opening at the courtyard and a space between the middle school entrance and the high school entrance. We were able to shorten the high school wing by 42 feet in length, reducing the exterior wall and roof area of the building, and then take advantage of the natural slope of the elevation of the grade and have a portion of the building as a lower level below there. Just to walk through the plans, I'll just go through this briefly with you, and I will say that we look forward to having a meeting next week with Sue and Robin, perhaps Brian, so that we can talk about adjacencies of certain rooms and programs next to each other and really dig into the details. But as a general rule, the gymnasiums are together, but middle school separate from high school. Sorry, animate that. You can see that with the blue line, the middle school circulation allows for entrance into the shared band room and the shared auditorium from their corridor and into their section of the divided cafeteria. So the kitchen and servery are in this area, serving a middle school cafeteria or dining area and a high school dining area. And you can see that middle schoolers can enter right into their gymnasium and their cafeteria. High school has that whole wing, separate entrance into the auditorium area, separate entrance into the shared band room, and then a bit of a walk, but entrance into the gymnasium and the new locker rooms. So again, we'll go through the adjacencies of the floor plans in detail with the administration and really talk it through. Because it's important, you know, whose office is next to whose, all of that high level of detail. But as a overview, we've got the academics with some pathways that you'll see in pink color on the second and third, and in the case of the high school, fourth floor. And also on the lower level of the new lower level of the high school, we have early childhood development, because that allows for a walkout for preschool direct to a playground area, and art rooms. Because we also think that the art rooms facing that pond and with access to perhaps outdoor classroom space or patio space is a nice thing. Again, we'll discuss that and really confirm that with the school administration.
What did you say would be more efficient from a site standpoint? Renovating the gym or the new gym?
Yeah, right.
Correct, renovating the gym.
And but the elevation is what?
The elevation of the existing gym is 672. So the challenge with capturing the savings of using that as a renovation was now that the first floor all came up higher than what we had originally planned. We were planning for the first floor to be at 666 in the previous iteration. Now it will be at 672, and then we'll have this lower area walkout.
So maybe it's a cost issue, did the net savings reflect the additional cost in the concrete and the remaining portion of the building? Or no, as you step and as you put in ramps?
I think that in our conversations with ONG, and I'll let them opine on it a little bit more, the site work was done as a site cost per acre, and so they haven't gotten into the details of that yet.
I meant the concrete and the steel.
Yeah, well, so a couple of things. One is the number that we had looked at, as we were asked at the end of the last meeting, was really to look at the savings in the earthwork, the concrete, and really the structural components of leaving that gym. And that's where that $950,000 savings came from.
And that's specific to that portion of just that building.
That's correct. Now, when we had a meeting earlier this week, and SLAM had reviewed with us, the way things were progressing, based on trying to make it that elevation. There are some things that are happening, and stop me if I'm talking out of turn here, but the floor plan is it condensing a little bit too?
It
so
is,
there's,
we've
really-
shortened the high school wing by 42 feet.
Right, so,
That has
so
nothing to do
Gary,
with this.
well,
Well, it does.
It
Oh,
does,
yeah.
because, again, we don't have the documents yet to do a detailed takeoff of what we had for yardage of concrete before, but looking at it from a square foot basis, the building is becoming more compact in that it's less foundation, less roof, because it's more vertical. So there's some efficiency there that was not there before. So when trying to make up this elevation difference in this lower level, there are some efficiencies there that'll probably offset part of this, the grade correction. that's
Right,
gonna
the only
happen.
reason I bring these up is because they're not final numbers and the design's not final. If we're gonna continue choosing options as we go along, I know we're not final options, but the estimated savings or additional costs, I would hope would be a good reflection, and we don't find out later that, in this case, I'm not blaming anybody, but, because most people on the board don't understand the process. The savings we see and the extras we see really are not numbers that we could be comfortable with either way at this point. Because, they're projections based on scripture.
Right, there, I mean, again.
So I think everybody should know
Right,
that.
the entire process is very conceptual or
Right.
very schematic. It is just that, exactly.
Right, and so as we develop further, the schematic design estimate will be a lot more
Right.
precise than this initial takeoff. And then, of course, the DD estimate will be a real takeoff and check of numbers, usually checking with actual subs and getting numbers.
I have a question. This may be more of the committee, but I'm still having a tough time wrangling between the benefit of the field house versus the renovated gym. And I'm just wondering, as a committee, should we be, hopefully this building is gonna last 60 or 70 years, so should we be looking at the differences between renovating the gym or putting in a field house? I don't feel like I understand enough to know if it's worth going down the path of a field
It's
house.
being driven by two things right now, the cost savings and the eliminating the phasing of not having a gym for a year. That's been the big driver of moving away from the field house, which I love the idea. Now, can we, as these numbers get more streamlined and precise, is it too late to go back to the field house?
I would say that at the end of schematic design, yes, that if we're going down the road of reusing the existing, there's a lot of investigation that we need to do.
Mhm.
And also, we've done a lot of work placing the building on the site,
Mhm.
grade-wise, that it would make a big difference if we were to change midway through that course.
So, well, it kind of adds to what I was thinking, because the board, we haven't really been lit in on where we stand, and as I said last 2 weeks ago or a month ago, are we gonna be able to go back and change and not have to encounter numerous change orders? I was hoping from the beginning, and we are where we are, that if there's compromise, the board, and at least the committee, first talk about what is beneficial to the students most and the community most. And I don't know the answer, but I'm not sure we're addressing. It seems like we're doing form over function right now. And, maybe there needs to be more function. I don't know. I'm not for or against the field, to be perfectly honest. I think it's a cool idea. It's
Yeah.
great, but I don't know what's best for our students for the next 60 years. And I don't know that we're looking at it that way. I think right now, this early, we're looking at it simply as it's 900,000. Now, I'm gonna throw something out. I'm not saying, but to save $900,000, we can change the form of the building. And I know you don't want to do that. I know we don't want to do that, but those discussions at least should be vetted, to people here, because in the end, the public may say, well, to save $1 million, like we didn't have the pool 60 years ago, to save 700,000, you didn't build the pool, now look over there. Is
Yeah,
that
I thought
discussion
that
being
last
had?
week we did talk about the pros and cons a lot, and whether or not you could live for a year without a gym during that construction. So we did take a look at both as I described. So I think that the consensus, and correct me if I'm wrong, last 2 weeks ago, was really to push toward making it work if the budget confirmed,
Yeah.
if we
The
could
savings made
confirm a
sense.
savings over $750,000, and if we could allow for a gym to be in use all during construction, that was our charge. Now,
No.
we did discuss the benefits and drawbacks of the field house. We're happy to discuss it again tonight.
I can share just a little bit about the discussions we've had at the school level on both. And if we had the ability to build a field house with like a track and it was like a real field house, then sure, that's a different story, but we don't, right? So
I
we
don't know
are,
that we don't.
what?
I don't know that we don't.
Well, maybe
Because
we
it
do,
hasn't
but
been-
anyways,
it hasn't
we
been
feel
pursued.
out of these two options, that's just what I'm coming from
I
high
know.
school, that the option that we're talking about with the high school gym and the middle school gym is what we would prefer. The size of the high school gym and having them a separate space. That's the discussions that we've had, you know.
But those being the only two options. Again, to be perfectly honest, I was a swimmer. So, I never spent any time in the gym.
You're not running around.
But except for Uncle Mike. But all I'm saying is, at least let the committee have some further insight into.
Sure. So I can also
because you
share
could save $1
insight
million
about that.
tomorrow. Because, let's be honest, we could. It'd take a little more thought. But, and it
To
may
do
affect design, but I can.
To
Save
save
$1 million
We could save $1
somewhere
million
else.
somewhere to make up for that.
Oh, gosh, I hope that's the case. You're good.
Well, I'm
$1
saying-
million is a lot to cut.
What would you like me to suggest to them? But it can be done, but we want to give them the option. All I'm saying is again, if the board just wants to take it as it is, that's fine. I don't care about the field house, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I think it's a great idea if it's a real field house, but I just don't think that many people are understanding what the options could be.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's fair. I think you should really vet the options, and if you're gonna say it's gonna save $1 million, then maybe say, our design is a pretty, form design, and it's an expensive design. And if we wanted to change the building form, I'm betting in steel, you could save $700,000, maybe more, and in concrete, you'd save.
We're gonna save $600,000 on steel a different way.
All right, I
But I
understand,
will,
but-
I just want to clarify, when we're using the term field house, that is really a misnomer. 3 gyms side by side by side would allow you to have more expansive use and community use, but it is not a field house. The size of that would be 10 plus, it would really be still under 20,000 square feet. And a true field house is in the neighborhood of 30.
Well,
If
if
you
you
want to track around it.
depends how you define a field house.
Right.
If you define a field house with a 200-meter indoor track, then it's much bigger.
But it was never discussed.
Right, but I
That's
think
not,
a couple of points to make is that a field house was not in the ed spec, first of all, to put the two gyms together. I think it was discussed as an option. We did look at the option. The option to do that is going to cost money to demolish the existing gym, and then it creates a phasing issue, as well as, and what's not in that $900,000 savings or 950 is the cost for a temporary gym solution, which we still have to talk about if that's the path we're going to go down. We haven't heard from the education side whether or not that's a requirement, or can you operate without a gym at all for a year? That's something we need to talk about. But those things are not in the 950 savings. So if you add that on top of it, the savings are even greater.
Can you perhaps just take a minute? I know we did discuss this, but just to at least refresh my memory, if not everyone else's, what we are losing going from the field house to the existing gym. What's the difference? What are we giving up?
so the only You're not giving up anything in terms of size of each of the gyms that was requested. And so both accomplish the program that was requested, both accomplish the ed spec that was requested. Middle school gym and all of its support space, a high school gym and all of its support space. In fact, utilizing the existing gym, you do have a little bit larger than program square footage, so a little bit extra room. But if you were to put the three gyms together, it would allow you the opportunity to have a second operable partition between the middle school and the high school gyms. And not during school hours, but in an after hours event, if that was something that could allow you to do bigger events, you could use three gyms, basketball courts side by side.
Thank you.
Sure.
So this one, and I'm gonna apologize for my ignorance because it's just that I don't really understand the construction piece of it, but would there be an option if we renovated the gym? So you build the first gym first. Is there any kind of temporary wall structure we could put up until the other gym was renovated and then make our own quasi field house by being able to provide that separation? And I know all this costs money, but if that's something that we feel, and I don't know if it's important or not important.
We talked a little bit about that last meeting.
Right.
This gym, the existing gym, has its primary column line right here on either side. So the main beam structure is going like that. And so that would interrupt the ability to have a full column-free field house space. Even if we were to build the gym immediately adjacent to it, it would still interrupt that wide open column-free space.
Go ahead, Don.
I mean, I heard Robin, who said she had these conversations and kind of came out with what the school wants there, but I'm interested to know, was there any middle school input on separate versus continuous?
Right, middle school all along has said that they want that separate entity.
Okay.
To stay apart. This gives you that flexibility in terms of how they are structuring that whole kind of middle school hub. And that's something that just in terms of talking with the community and going through the forums, that was something that was brought up.
So if we have middle school educators and we have high school educators saying they like that option, and it potentially costs less and it helps with the phasing, do we need to spend a lot more time discussing pros and cons about that?
That's not what I'm getting at.
Well, I wasn't addressing you, Gary,
Yeah.
specifically, I was just talking in general.
No, I want the committee to have their opinion, that's all I'm saying. I don't really care. But I just don't want, I don't think there should ever be this option, because save $900,000. When the entirety of the scope of the project, and Mario said it's because of the savings. We don't need to save the $900,000. We could save it somewhere else.
But we might not even save it if it turns out that adding the extra floor.
You're right.
Yeah,
That's
what
all
I
I'm saying. So
but-
it's really more than option 1 and 2. I don't care what we do because I don't use it.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you don't care, then let's listen to what the
Yes,
stakeholders who actually are gonna be there.
I think he's speaking more of the process today.
Right.
I just want to say, I
Not
didn't
just
like
us.
bring it out to the masses at the high school. We just kind of met as a, leadership team with Mike McKenna, the athletic director,
I just want the committee to make a decision.
just want to make sure.
Everybody
everyone-
needs to know what's going on, not just assume it's option 1 and 2. There needs to be more transparency.
And just
I'm
to clarify,
interested in if you want to vote on it, we
No,
would like
it
that.
seems like they're all.
We want clear direction as well. So we're,
Well, I think the other reason why is that it's the elevation of the gym this way is better than the other way, because you're not walking down or an elevator and so forth, correct?
well, we were able to accomplish that in one of the two options for option 1,
Right.
as well as in one of the two options for option 2.
I think the thing to understand between option 1 and option 2, option 1 having the full field house, but it has an overlap with the existing building and therefore it's phased. That was all on one level for the main level 2, but it was lower. It was 6 feet lower in grade than what's there today, which means everything's gotta get out of the way to build that at that elevation. Whereas this one, we're raising it up to 6 feet, we're reusing the gym. And then by doing that, we're able to capture some lower level space in the high school wing, which uses the topography of the site, in my opinion, more efficiently, allows us to reduce the footprint of the high school wing, and therefore, have a little bit more efficient vertical construction.
But the size of the gym remains the same
That's
Correct.
correct.
as it is now.
That's correct.
Correct.
Well,
which everybody really loved,
well,
as
it's
far
okay,
as.
because we're adding
the foot-
we're adding a second gym, so to speak, so.
Well, right.
If you take
I
all the
I
gyms-
mean,
But that's for the
the high
middle
school
Yeah.
portion of the
Right.
gym remains the same.
Yes.
The middle school is extra.
Just the only other thing I want to say is I respect the opinions of all these people, but we are representing everyone in the community. And like the pool that we've never stopped hearing about, I would like to at least be able to have a rational explanation for why we chose to renovate the gym versus a field house, because there are going to be a lot of people in our town, Georgetown, that want a field house. So I think we just have to all understand.
So I
Yes.
think in order to do that, we have to really clarify the terminology of field house.
Right.
Because a true field house has a much larger presence
Mhm.
and includes a track. And this would not be a field house. This would be
Right.
3 gyms put together. It would allow you more flexibility perhaps after hours, but it would not be a field house in the true sense of a.
Right, 3 courts, let's be clear, 3 courts.
We
not
just
just
stop
gyms.
calling
Two.
it
So if we
field
stop,
Yeah.
oh,
That's probably
That
good,
that was
because
our
it's not-
mistake, we started. calling it a
house.
field
Yeah.
house.
Let's not call it a field house.
So
I think I
larger
started that.
Fiona, I think your point is very well taken. And that's why I also get nervous, because I do feel like that there are people out there who are already nervous about bringing middle school to
Right.
high school. And to the extent that a little separation helps with that population, I guess it's hard to know who they are, right?
Right.
But this does solve, I mean, I've talked to people with younger kids who are like, oh, they're gonna be with high schoolers. I'm sure you have too. So that kind of does hit that aspect of it.
The 2 things that stuck out was, because I was gonna ask you, Robin, who you had the conversations with. So, so it sounds like the leadership, sounds like Mike McKenna was there and all, so that was my question, was the AD there, as far as, because they have to set up all the schedules and, and all that stuff for sports. And when you said that is the more efficient option for the space, you made that comment, you
For
think
the
it's
site.
more efficient for the site, right? Yeah, for the site.
You go to the site.
So, so that's, those are 2 things that kind of sway me to go with the keeping the existing gym.
The only hesitancy I have, which gets Gary's point, is that the savings sounds nice, but we're kind of going down a road where we can't get back, and we may find that by adding that extra level, we're not really saving much, or.
Well, so just to be clear, we are offsetting that lower level by reducing every other floor. So we
But is
cut
that a good
back.
offset? Is that a good offset? I
It
think
it
I
is,
don't
because you're not requiring finished materials on one of those sides. So on the lower level of this portion, that's a basement wall, a foundation wall, instead of brick and glass and finished materials. So,
I meant to our
If-
needs. That's all I'm
oh,
saying.
I'm sorry.
I meant to our needs. All I'm saying, I think you misunderstood. All I'm saying is, if we're gonna look at some savings, let's make sure the savings are not working against the student body, or what might be a better option if we just say we need this, we'll find it somewhere else. That's all I'm saying, because to date, we haven't had that look at anything.
right,
And I
so,
think we, as a community, as a board, I see the differences, but I don't think anyone else does. I think the discussion should be had. That's all.
So we had that same discussion in our office
Yeah.
amongst ourselves before we made that move. And because we didn't want to impact the functionality and the use of the building for the students either. but we thought hard and looked hard at the program, found program elements that made sense to put in that lower level.
Okay.
Because of the program requirement for the preschool, you have to exit at grade, have a playground at grade right outside in a secluded area also, away from all the other students. And then also the art program function really lends itself to being able to walk out onto the site as well. And have that nice setting near the pond and in the, in a grassed area. So we felt that those were, program elements that could really work well in that lower level.
Right. And again, the square footage of the building is there to reflect all of the ed spec and program that we work so hard with the administration to build and with your individual teams. And so when we meet next week to really dig into adjacencies, what program is next to what, we'll revisit that, Kemp's comment about art having a nice walkout and ability to utilize some outdoor space is great from our experience and previous buildings. But when we talk to Robin and the art department, we want to confirm that. And if that doesn't work for them, we can put the art department back up on the 3rd or 4th floor and bring something else down. So we're still at a point where shifting program within the building is, expected and something that we'll do hand in hand with your faculty and staff.
Okay.
And I think one last thing to mention is, we all kind of decided to put the building in this corner of the site for a lot of reasons, but one of the major reasons was to allow us to get all the fields in their balance of the site. And as you can see, we were able to squeeze those in a little bit better way, I think, than we had done previously. So we're pleased about that as well.
Right, this actually does not require any change to the location of the existing road here along the eastern edge of the property line. So we're happy that, we didn't know if maybe to fit this larger play field, which at our last meeting was requested to have be large enough for football practice as well. So it has the space for end zones. We were worried that if, in order to have this, we might have to push into this hillside and kind of blast or carve out the hill, push the road into it a little more. But we don't have to do that. So, more to come. There's a lot of site development that we're going to be talking about.
I was just gonna ask, ideally, because all the fields are up there.
Mhm.
I mean, if it scales, is it not possible to, in the back of everybody's mind, think about parking up against the slope? Because you've got it, the contours at the lower level aren't that bad, but you only need 26 feet from the curb line, because otherwise people are gonna be walking from all the way down the bottom.
So we do incorporate parking here
Yeah, that's about.
and here.
No, I know, but if you have 3 fields going, it's gonna be 100 people. Possibly,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think, unfortunately, I told Bill that I didn't need more information because we're only presenting this one site
Oh,
plan
okay,
tonight.
okay.
He can give us the
Just a
parking
thought.
count
That's
off the
just a
top of
thought
his
for
head.
later.
So we can follow up with the parking count for you. And how many parking spaces in each area.
When we met with the mayor and Daily Drive and police, they were in favor of opening it up during certain hours. So buses can go down from that end and won't have to. Woodford Street. So
Right, but I understand what you're saying. I have walked that part of the site.
There's room.
There's enough room to put in a 18-foot
Right.
parking bank from the edge of the road. Yeah, it would take a little bit of fill, but everything costs money, so I think we need to
Right.
just.
But there's also parking right on the other side of the field in the middle there.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
I
you
know,
could
I just
open
been to
both
places
ends.
that have all these kinds of activities, we could have 100 people parked, 100 cars, that's all.
Well, this represents
Related.
parking for 400.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it does? Okay.
to scale,
Well,
it's difficult to
including
scale
the other.
That's everything.
between this and this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So scale wise, each of those parking lots is pretty generous. Any other questions about the plans or the fields?
Just the field. So there's a baseball field, a softball field, and like a JV field.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And a multi-purpose field, which will have a alternate to be synthetic turf. And then there's a practice field area for the football, which was requested. The one thing that we do need to talk to Mike about is that the javelin throw and the practice football overlap. So we want to make sure that that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not too good at the.
Two different seasons.
Not during at the same, not during
Right.
use at the same.
The smallest baseball, softball field, what is the smallest field there?
So this is it's a JV baseball and combined softball practice field.
And middle school would be using these fields too?
Yes.
Okay. And I mean, my kids played, but how likely is it that somebody hitting a power hit could hit from one to the other field?
They wear helmets. Well, I mean, there should be a fence and a backstop over
Right,
there.
where that.
There is,
And
yeah.
the- and
there's a
the
fence.
tennis courts are usually, they're all caged in.
Yeah.
Well, you might see it from the varsity to the
But-
softball, girls softball.
There could be some.
It could.
But varsity
But
baseball.
It's
probably
much better than it is
still be a
now,
fusion,
because now the softball breaks a lot of windows of how
Well, that-
it's
Yeah.
situated right now.
Yeah.
Breaks windows of the school?
Yeah,
Oh, my gosh.
because of how it's situated
Okay.
with foul
Well,
ball.
we'll direct it away from.
Thank you. Yeah,
Well, it
yeah.
looks like it's far enough away.
But it'll have the, like the nets, or
Yes.
whatever, the backstops that come over.
Yes, it'll, yeah, kind of reaches up and curves at the
Yeah,
top.
yeah.
And I'm sorry, one more question, but did you hear from the city? Are we good with that
Oh, yeah. the lower-
property
He's just
issue?
waiting on the survey.
We met with the police chief, Park and Rec chair, fire, planning and zoning, and public works. So the only discussion, not a problem, with the police chief, because where, and they know about it, where the entrance is close to Amherst.
Mhm.
So they were worried about how close it is. So they're gonna work on that. But when we told them that many of the buses and cars could come back, then they have relieved some.
That'll be studied as part of the traffic study. Yep.
But they were all, they liked the idea, they were all in favor.
And if that happens, would they have to move the skate park, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Does
yeah.
that, does that fall on us to pay for moving that skate park? Or does that fall back on the city?
Or-
Or Warren, let's not move it, just hold it.
And the demo budget.
We get a flood.
Run away.
Thank you for explaining, like most things
Oh.
aren't really.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no
Construction.
problem, no problem.
Yeah.
Any questions that you have, we're happy to answer, and I can go back to any slides that you need.
Oh.
Julia's going to talk a little bit about the exterior material choices.
Oh my
So
God.
you see the little piece.
Which photo do you want to start with?
So I have a question while we're waiting. You said the art and the ELC or pre-K is gonna be on the bottom, but then you also said no windows, so I'm a little,
Oh, I'm sorry. There's windows in one direction where the grade slopes down. Facing the pond, there's lower grade.
okay.
And when they're in the
Corridor's so
courtyard,
different.
it's just, maybe one of these other images can help explain that.
So in the courtyard, there's no windows, but the other side there is, or vice versa?
We'll get to this at the end. Facing the pond, there's windows.
Is windows.
Yeah. and the
Okay.
curve behind.
But the other side,
And in the lower level, on the courtyard side, it's a basement wall. So you have the only on one side.
gotcha.
But
Okay.
the occupied spaces are the things that have windows. The core, we can have windows.
Gotcha. Okay,
On the
thank you.
lower level only.
On just that little lower piece. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
This helps
You know,
you.
if they told me in advance. I
So
would've brought
we
cheese
will
steak.
have
She didn't
windows
tell
in
me in
this
advance.
wall.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So it will just be lower.
So then the top of it's all the same height, the middle and high school, or is the high school
The
higher?
high school is higher by
High
1
school
floor.
is four-story and the middle school is a three-story, which we can.
So it's 4-story with another level?
Yes,
Correct.
high
Four
school does not
and
have a
one level.
third
Gotcha.
level.
Correct, yes, you can see it here on the corner. This is the 4-story portion of the high school.
Oh, there.
And then there's a lower level.
Okay,
So it's 4 above.
So, because we are like infilling or parking and elevating the building up higher. But you see the difference between high school and middle school?
I can see it now. In the other picture, it looked like the same height.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to tell from bird's eye. view.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, gotcha. So that's an added area.
It's an added area there and it reduced the area of all 4 stories
Correct.
by shortening that length.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I have a hard
I
time.
we
have
start
to see it.
developing a facade of the building, and we are thinking of, we brought some exterior materials. We're really thinking about using a brick as a base material, as a field material. So most of the school will be brick, and then using some like wood composite laminate for the wall accent to warm up entire palette. And in some cladding, different cladding material, maybe for this lower level to differentiate it. But
So where's the wood?
what
You'll
will
see in
be
the-
in those
Okay.
recessed areas?
Sorry, I'm getting ahead.
Oh, we need to go. Hold on.
So we were thinking about wood in the, where we have a recessed
Oh,
area where we
gotcha,
have a stairs. And it's laminated, it's graffiti-free and maintenance-free material. So we're providing windows in all classrooms and in all offices. And some of them will be repetitive for the classrooms. And offices will be slightly different. But stairwells will be vertical elements, and we're going to have a glass there. So whenever you're going up floors and down floors, you will have a view of the pond or surroundings. Just a close-up in the detailing. We are thinking of placing a sunshade if on a southern facade, just to protect the glare and sun, and adding some vertical elements to it, just to articulate more the windows opening. This is still in a making. We're still working on the facade, but this would be the view towards the courtyard, where you can see the auditorium, middle school main entrance, and high school main entrance. We're still thinking of having a maybe nano-wall or some possibility to open the stage so that a student can perform there. An audience can be outside for outside performances, or community can be in a courtyard and listen to the concert.
Yeah, that's a nice idea.
These are some variations and some explorations of the facade for a middle school with the brick and placing some vertical elements, because we've been very efficient with those. We have corridors and classrooms around. So we're trying to make the facade more playful. This one is looking at the facade with the clad in a different material. So we will still look in a few options. Possibilities like to differentiate middle school and maybe make a facade slightly different than the high school, or we can make all campus sort of more coherent and have a similar treatment for everything. Just a few perspective views of this facade that is going towards the gymnasium and community entrance to the gym. And this one is with the brick and some wood elements. Materials that we brought here. So we think that play between a warm and cool materials might be nice. Just a method of installation, a warranty. So we're trying to keep it really simple, to have a few materials on the facade, but to make it elegant and provide plenty of daylight and views for all classes.
Do you have any reactions to some of the materials that we're looking at? Or is there a comfort level with brick? We see it a lot in town.
Yeah.
And on the other buildings.
I personally like brick. I think it's beautiful. I said, what? Do you feel comfortable enough that, you know, we have budget scope that we can, there's enough to take away, which we don't want to do, if we're off on the budget, or you feel like you've carried, O&G is carrying square foot cost to reflect the skin on this building?
I can say that we're using materials that we've
That's right, that's it.
selected in conjunction with O&G.
We talked to ONG this week, and we found a brick really like the most common material and good starting point. And since most of it is a brick, we feel really safe.
Beautiful. At least I think so.
My only concern with the bricks is the brick refacing we always have to do. Is that just because of the age of like
Yes.
Midget Avenue, the brick structure there?
Well,
The whole
probably
project.
have 2 years anyway,
Yeah. Probably hasn't been repointed or
and it's 50 years.
foreseen.
Yeah.
100 years.
And plus the rain just,
Yeah, and there's no gutters that are
So you said
that
the,
would be-
the wood is like a
we'll be
laminate?
dead.
Yes, it is
We can pass this around. to you. It's a laminated wood facade on a
And the main water, yes, the water, so it doesn't require any maintenance.
Yes, you guys, I believe, were-
Even for 50 years.
Up to, I think, 20 years of warranty.
And then what
something, and
happens?
it's also different if it's vertical on the facade.
Right.
Warranty is longer if you do this, of course, because more rain is.
Right.
So then you would just replace it in 20 years if it
It shouldn't really
Yeah.
be, warranty, they will replace it. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Very durable,
I
it's
think-
maintenance free, we used it on the different buildings, different schools. And,
pretty.
So in your packet, there is a description of each of the materials. You can see, and I'm holding up the Ceraclad here. This is like a fiber cement board. So if you're familiar in the residential world with hardy plank, this is like a commercial version of that kind of a material with a ceramic coated finish. So it's the durability that doesn't need repainting. And we have in your packet the number of years that each of these materials is warranted and all, but I can pass this around too. And the third material is, yes, go ahead.
It's also fiber cement material, so like,
So I had
it
Ron-
comes in
I have a
with a
question.
profile or small.
you got a question, Robin?
I do. The glass, I think we talked about this a little bit, but I can't remember. The glass, like say on this first level, and those beautiful windows, which I love, right? And, you know, we don't want a closed building. But I'm just thinking about safety. I forget, is the glass like bulletproof or?
So there's different levels of ballistic security in glazing. And we'll have to talk about that during the security committee meeting. But you'll have a number of options to choose from.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because I know that, like, so the building that we're in now, there's just, if there's so many entry points, God forbid anybody ever wanted
Right.
to. So safety, I think, I know we talked about it a little bit, but
Well, we're gonna have a separate security meeting, and I don't know, Ed,
It's on the agenda.
it's on the agenda, so we'll talk about that.
In general, we are minimizing number of entrances to the building. We will just have a egress per hall, but we don't have, like, when we are saying the atrium can access this lower level, it can access it through the stairwell doors. We will not have doors on each classroom and stuff like this. So, and the security areas are, at the main entrances, we have a double security vestibule.
Mhm.
So nobody can pass through the vestibule. They go first to the office.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking of the worst case scenario.
The building has been designed in accordance with SSIC guidelines. And as Amy mentioned, we'll have more detailed discussion with the security meeting
Okay.
about the details of the glazing and some of the access control issues. and
Access
things like that.
control, security cameras.
Great.
Go ahead.
So in the recessed areas,
So sorry.
there's no windows.
There is no windows on this side walls.
But on the
And there is
front
window
wall,
on the front.
Anywhere there's recess, there's no.
Not the windows on the side walls,
Okay.
because if we have a front glazing on a stairwell, we cannot have the windows next to it because of fire rating. Those
Right.
are like
Okay.
egress stairs, so they have some-
yeah, we can show you in the plan, because what Julia's describing is that stairs have a fire rating. And so you can't have windows at 90-degree angle to a rated area of the building. So the glass will be on the stair wall, but not on the wall that's adjacent from the other side of the building. But that works out well because that wants to be the front of a classroom. And you would want a solid wall to put your teaching wall, your marker board and active wall panel.
And often we have a ductwork there, shaft wall next to the stairs, so that runs through entire building for air conditioning and heating.
I was just thinking more of offices, just to have a corner, like
The
a
corner
window. on
windows,
it.
the door-
We do prioritize that all teaching spaces, and we're trying our hardest to have every single office also have natural daylight and an exterior window.
We do have right now
We do.
windows for it, for everyone. Except for nurse.
School nurse.
Except for all the school nurses.
Go ahead.
Would it be more cost-effective material-wise if we did both of the buildings in the same exterior?
But what was the question?
Would it
Cost
be
of-
more
Yes,
cost-effective
it's
to
most
do
cost-
both
Yes,
buildings?
it would be most cost effective. Fewer materials is more cost effective than if we have more different materials, especially small.
And I think that's Julia's plan.
So,
I didn't hear what you said.
so you're looking at two different kinds of
We
fascia in both buildings or the same?
we are looking for a same brick on the both buildings, but different fenestration. And we are looking for a wall accent with a wooden. This is the most economical way, but it's also most pleasant way, because you will not look at a jumble of everything, but it will look like a nice building.
No, I was just meaning, should we do the outside structures the same at the middle school and the high school portion?
Differentiating between the schools.
They will be
Or
different.
not, right.
They will be different, and they will relate to each other, but they will have differences. We will clearly see the difference at the main entrance of the middle school and high school. I believe we are planning next.
Yeah, are you
weekend
asking if
to-
there's any economies of scale? Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
Right.
I don't think there are, but
No.
maybe combine more. brick. You
Yeah,
have to save
I
it.
think that,
You might a million brick anyway.
So
right.
it's really our choice whether we want to differentiate by having two different colors, or, because they would both be brick anyway. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
We could look at that. We could look at two different color bricks, yes. But
So
I think what we're
these two different
suggesting,
things, are those just different color bricks?
No,
one is
one
the,
was this material and the other was,
Oh, so
Yeah.
this is the middle school where there's not brick contemplated.
yes.
it's being contemplated on both, and we're gonna present, this is really the preview of the exterior material discussion. We want to get your feedback and make sure that we're going down the right path. And then at the next meeting, we'll be able to really give you more finished renderings and a better look at the building. And I think
Yes.
Juliet is studying both options.
And your question also, like more if we have more quantity of one material, we get a better price for
That's
it.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's like usual, but it, I don't know how.
The thing looks like the wood is only a 10-year,
Yeah,
and that's a problem.
the warranty on some of the products.
I think there's other products we could probably pick.
Hardy's got 25.
Which one has
So it's
25?
a,
Hardy, I
it's
use
a different,
Hardy.
yeah.
Oh,
and-
yeah, this, the ceramic one does as
Yeah,
well.
and
Mhm.
it's a difference like for the surface or the other thing, the
Well, I guess that brings up a question though. And I've never really, not old enough to have outlived the life of the Hardy plank, but not yet. I will be sometime, I'll be soon. What, 20 or 5 years down the road, what do you do with Hardy versus using brick? You know, is it, you can paint Hardy. You know, I think they're finished in the 25-year.
Right, so just to clarify the difference between Hardy and what we're suggesting is that this already comes pre-coated with a ceramic coating.
so it's much stronger.
You don't need to repaint it on a regular basis.
No, but versus the brick, in 25 years, will we have to replace that? Will it be, you know, will it be worn out because of, you know, mold and
I
mildew?
have to look at it.
I just don't know.
I have to really look at it. Does it mean that they will replace it within a 20 years warranty? And after this, they will not replace it, you will have to do it?
The warranty is probably for the finish, right?
Yes, just to
Yeah.
finish, but this will last more than 20 years. This is just,
Yeah, so the
Like,
warranty
for
on the
example-
substrate
Yeah.
is 50 years for this product, the Ceraclad, which is the one I described as the commercial version of Hardy. And then 20 on the finish.
and
So you could,
Yeah.
potentially, that seems to me like you could refinish it, but I would have to ask the
yeah,
manufacturer.
and also it depends of environment. Where is this built? What is damaging the finish?
No, I agree.
Yeah, so if you were down by the shore
Mhm.
and salt water was attacking it, it might be a shorter duration too than here.
So
So what
that's
about
why,
capital
like,
plans?
if
We're
you're
gonna have to
placing a
refinish.
wood in a recessed wall, it's a less open to rain and things.
So that black one,
It's
Yes.
black one, yeah.
The
Yeah.
It's actually
Ceraclad?
gray.
that's the outside?
Yeah.
This is out.
And that's just one option.
It comes,
one option.
it comes ridged like that, it comes flat, there's a number of options and colors.
But only gray?
No, it comes in,
Oh, okay.
We have a white.
I think there was a white sample that we passed around.
Yeah, there's one here, it's actually great.
No,
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 that's
it's white,
white.
yeah.
Yeah.
Comes in a range of colors.
Maybe just one quick one.
yeah.
No, you're the point person, so I'm asking.
You can ask, I can always refer.
But you had said that, you know, as we get down the road, it's hard to turn back. So looking at this, you're talking about the finished drawings with this exterior. You know, if we can't turn back, you will know soon enough that our budget will accommodate.
So again,
How
there's a price
how
check
you
in,
balance
in
that?
just a couple of weeks. So,
Okay, it's too.
you know, Gary, we have to turn in our schematic design documentation in 2 weeks from tomorrow.
21st.
And then O&G will price it, our estimator will price it.
Okay.
We get together, we reconcile, and then we come away with decisions to make.
So our fallback for the other material that is contrasting to brick can be ground CMU concrete block, which we also used.
Concrete block.
There's a like, well, if it's nicely finished, it still can be nice. Sometimes it looks like terrazzo, but we believe that we do have a budget for this material that we are suggesting, because we are using, as I said, the field is a brick. Majority of this is brick.
Yeah.
And And we did the school in Hartford that is like from 1930s, and brick is still beautiful. They repointed it, it's just
No, brick is
gorgeous.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It'll last forever.
Yeah, so I think that, using these materials as an accent is really the way to go. That way you have the field of brick, and we can talk about various colors of brick, but
Right, they're used to break up a larger mass, and they're used sparingly, but as accent material.
yeah.
And I think brick is very classic, and it still represents that we are very steeped in tradition. It's very important to us in Torrington.
And it's
We
right for the
agree.
Red Raiders.
Exactly.
They won't be saying the 60 years, who are the idiots that picked the 60 years? Because it's contaminated.
Something new.
Yeah, but
So
something
that
else.
other material doesn't come in the brick color,
Yes, this material comes also in a brick color.
the other one with the ribs.
The
With
Saracen?
this ribs, I don't.
That one.
We can have a custom color.
That would add.
We could have a custom color, but I don't know why you would want to have, it wouldn't be an accent then if it were next to the brick. Is that what,
Oh, that would be the accent,
Yeah,
not
that's just the
replace the
Correct.
brick.
no,
Okay,
Right.
gotcha.
right, like in this area on the walls.
Oh, I see, I see.
Well,
It's just me, I
it's not
don't
like,
get it.
so for example, if this is the brick, the lower level would be some of the other materials. And then we will have a retaining wall here, which would be like some sort of stone material, but,
And then the other material,
and the wood would
In
be
the
here,
recess.
so it's kind of also protected because it's not face on for the,
Wind and rain.
so 3 different materials.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And then there's the metal around the
And
windows. I
we
mean,
will have a window
if we're really
frame.
counting materials.
The aluminum sunshades, are those like how, are they going out? Are they actually
going
sunshades?
Yeah, we didn't detail them yet, but they're on the southern side, they're horizontal and they're protecting from the sun. And sometimes they work also like a light shelf to bring the light deeper in the classroom.
So they're affixed.
So they're fixed,
Just
and I'll just go through on this zoomed in portion of the building, maybe help you out, that what we're showing is all of the building would be brick. You'd have large windows for the classrooms. Those windows would be broken up by sunshades, especially on the south facing glass, so that you don't have glare issues inside the classroom. And these vertical fins as well are a metal material. And that so could differentiate classroom to classroom. It can be used as a rhythm along that long building facade that we have. And then you see that in between, when the building kind of turns and there's a stair, then you have a chance to have an additional material or separate material in that break. So if I go back to here, that might have been a zoomed in portion of, one of these areas. And then you can see that where there's a stair, there's glass on that face wall of the stair, and the side panels would have that accent. And in this case, we're showing the accent as the wood
And
substrate.
we can bring it in so that it's continuous from the stairs that you're looking at.
When you're inside the stair, that
Oh,
same
same.
wood finish could be
Okay,
on the
gotcha.
interior.
And when we go look at Career Academy, you'll see some examples of that. So Julia did a beautiful job there with, not with wood, but with a similar application where it came in from outside.
What would the middle school look like, the difference?
We just start looking at this facade, and we are using different fenestration here. It's more vertical.
And that's not brick.
This one is
This,
brick. It's
so
just
all
another
of this is brick. It's just a dark,
Oh, okay.
It's
the way it's
another
rendered,
color.
it's just not as bright. But yes, this is a field of brick. The lowest level, we're looking at accenting with other materials. So as you're walking by, it might be something to have an our field.
And we still need to coordinate between the floor plans and the elevations and where we have offices and so we will have slightly different windows than what you see at the typical classroom.
So the entrance to the middle school, is this an entrance or just a sidewall?
No, this is just a sidewall.
So
Do you
the
wanna go to
sidewall
one
to the
other?
middle school and the sidewall to the high school will look different.
Yeah,
That's what their idea is.
We're saying that that's
That's a
That's one of the
possibility.
possibilities,
Yeah,
is
gotcha.
that we would like to look at making a very strong distinction and then maybe one that's less strong, and you'll have an opportunity to see both.
because here we have upper floors are like cantilevered, so we have overhang underneath. So when you're on a lower level, when children are going out, they will have like a porch above the head, which is nice. And we are looking at the more transparency and wood accent at the main entrances. But they are going to be similar in terms of framing them and articulating them, but still different. High school is a taller, it will have this seniority almost, like treatment.
Where's the rooftop deck?
That'll be covered by TV panels.
If we have enough.
And,
of it.
and being slightly different when you talk to a new parent or whatever, the middle school is the one that looks like this, the high school is the one that looks like this, the entrance.
You will be able to distinguish, and there'll also be signage, and there'll also
Yeah.
be
Well, yes, but-
colors, or I don't know what the school colors are, if they're the same, but we'll certainly work
right
with
now.
you to.
Not right now.
They're gonna be.
They're gonna be.
They're gonna be.
It kind of has, in the design process, I see some of those porch-like overhangs on the big tall buildings.
Mhm.
Those will be like aluminum or product that we don't have to worry about 10 years from now, 20 years from now, replacing or refinishing. I think ideally it will be something we don't have to worry about for 60, 70 years.
Right,
Or
everything
metal.
that we select will be a very durable material. And so, and we'll check in with you all along, but we did bring some metal samples as well. That would be for the windows,
Window frame
frames, and then the
sunshade
sunshades and other
and
accents.
entrances.
A lot of detail, thank you.
Sure, there's more to come, and
Yeah.
really, we're
Sure,
just,
but-
we're just at the tip, we're just starting that process. But we look forward to bringing you lots more options to choose from.
Can you send me this, because some of those pictures aren't here? So I
Yes,
can send it out.
these 3 images that I just
Right.
walked through are not in the.
You mean the ones I
slideshow.
screenshotted?
What's that? I
You mean
can
the
send
ones I
you the JPEG.
screenshotted?
Yeah.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. Ally already stole them. don't worry.
Yeah.
You send it to me? Okay,
I
thanks.
can send them as a JPEG. if you
Yeah,
want a
that's
clean
Will
file.
be easier.
Yeah, you can do that, so I can send it out.
Sure.
What is the other alternative to the brick on the outside, were you saying?
Well, we're suggesting that brick is the field. I
Yeah.
don't
Okay.
think that we would suggest a different material,
Yeah.
except that there is, concrete block is
Yeah.
less expensive.
It's cheaper
It's
looking.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it to be the main field of the building,
Yeah.
but we could use it as a substitute for those accent areas if we need to.
We also
Right.
use the glazed brick
Yeah,
sometimes
yes.
for the accent walls, which can be nice, durable, and acceptable. Right.
Mhm. And a glazed brick is simply a coated, like, it looks like a finished paint on brick, but it's actually baked with the brick, so it's a solid material.
Looks almost like ceramic tile.
Mhm.
Okay,
Laurel,
thanks,
you're up.
Amy.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, Dave? Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna stay.
Get to another meeting, so I'm gonna,
Oh, okay,
I'll take care of the schedule.
okay.
That's where we are.
Yes, it is. I'm just gonna pull up that slide for you.
Are you tired, Gary?
No,
Explain where you are or no?
No, actually, this was good tonight.
Thank you.
Without the cookies, it's still good.
I didn't say that was. Casey was concerned, John was concerned. I was concerned. The budget's tight. Everybody brought cookies. I know. You and Ally did.
Dave, you're up.
All right, so we've talked a little bit about we know we had an initial schedule, we know we talked about where things have come as far as the programming effort that was put into it and some of the time that's been spent on that. So we've been spending quite a bit of time as a group with SLAM and with CSG, talking about the schedule and really, at this point, where do we see ourselves going, getting through the rest of the design phases, and when do we actually see construction starting on site? Okay. Whoop. So this is just a real simple overview, and it's a condensed version of a 5-page schedule that we have been tracking throughout the process, and it's somewhat similar to the format we had in our presentation view. So the idea here was to look at 2 different ways to look at the schedule getting us through pre-construction. One is a more standard approach, and one is an alternate. The standard approach is a very linear transition from schematic design, which is where we are now. So as Amy had mentioned, the end of March is when, the end of May is when the schematic design package will come in, and we're estimating that, and then it comes to design development. So each one goes to the very end where the culmination is approval of the estimate, the actual design itself. We all agree we're going to move forward, and then at that point, you direct the design team. Yes, you can proceed with the next design phase. So that's this linear approach, and that the trajectory right now is that has us starting around the end of June 2022. The alternative approach to that is that while it's not prudent to do an overlap between schematic design and design development, because there is so much that's happened early on as far as the functions of the building, that it's too risky there. But what we've done before, we did this on a project together in Darien last year. We overlapped design development and construction documents. And excuse me, what that means is SLAM will complete the design development package, which we will then begin to estimate. So will their estimator. But as we are doing the estimating, SLAM is continuing on with construction documents. That way, there's a lot of, and if there are questions, I'm sure they can elaborate on what happens at the beginning of the construction documents phase. But the time frame that we've been allowing for the process of estimating that design phase, getting it ready for presentation, and gaining acceptance by this committee is approximately 5 weeks. So there's approximately 5 weeks that we could take off of the schedule to recover some of where we've come to date. And for us, and at this point, we're still looking at things broad scope as far as the 30-month construction duration that was always planned. What this does here is that May 16th start, 5 weeks earlier than the June, allows us to get the students into the high school that winter break 24 to 25. The June 24th puts us in a situation where we're not allowing enough time to move furniture into the building and physically move into it, and you're off of some sort of a break. I know that break is not entirely long, but it's a better transition. I think some initial feedback there was that the middle school in this scenario would wait until the 25-26 school year. So that's really the overarching theme of this strategy, but there is some risk in going about it this way, because we are, in this approach, SLAM is not stopping what they're doing. So as we're estimating it, they're continuing to go. So it's going to take at least that 3-week period of time for us and SLAM's estimator to complete the estimate, to make sure to evaluate what it costs. But the strategy there is just the communication that has to happen among CSG, SLAM, and O&G as construction documents start, so that we can be reactive to that and give that feedback and say, well, if something were to change during construction documents, that we can address that and be nimble about that to correct it
before we get too far into CDs and we realize that we still have a budget problem. I think, we'll have a much better picture once we do the schematic estimate as far as really where we are in the grand scheme of things. And we've done this approach before with success. And again, I think with working with SLAM so many times before, we can make this happen. And this is an approach really that's gonna get us into that window that's best for getting the students into the school at a time that's probably least inconvenient for the occupants.
I was gonna ask you what the risk was.
That was my question.
I know what the risk is, but can you define the parameters of the risk? I mean, I wouldn't do it, but I think
Yeah.
everybody needs to know.
Well, I mean, the work, right. Right, I mean, some of the things that could happen, right, are that we get the design development package. SLAM is 3 weeks into construction documents, and we find ourselves over budget. So then it's a matter of, okay, what is it that SLAM has done in the past few weeks that can be amended or corrected to course correct for them? I think early on in the process here, we know we have a very tight budget. Early on in the process, we're going to be identifying ad alternates on the project. So there's that, and there's the reciprocal side of it too. It's as the design team is evolving construction documents during that time that we're estimating, we've asked that they be very transparent with that as far as what is it that's evolving in those documents. So if there's something that we need to account for in that design development estimate, or at least put something on the estimate below the line as a placeholder, we have that. Does that address your?
So they're on the clock, basically.
What do you mean?
Our risk is then their time. I'm not talking dollars. I'm only talking dollars because where we stand.
Yep.
How that impacts.
Can I say
Oh,
something?
yeah.
This method is becoming, more and more popular to it's efficient. And when you're starting the construction documents, you have a long length of time. So we're talking about the first 20-25% of that whole construction document phase. So in the beginning, SLAM will be setting up their formatting, details, information that's more or less standard, mapping out what they're going to do. So they'll be doing more of the general work. Jump in if I say something you disagree with, but more of the general formatting, layout, getting their strategy together, and more, I don't want to say generic, but standard details and standard approaches during that time period. By the time they, finish that first, say 25% of the process, then the budget from design development will have been reconciled. So we'll know where we stand at that point. So that time's not wasted. They're just able to keep on going and maintain the schedule.
Well, what's again, just,
so
we're not talking $500,000 design change, design cost, are we? If there's a big.
No, I think what I'm saying is that the risk is low because the beginning of that phase is more general, standardized details and formatting.
Let me add some clarity to that. I think there is some truth to the standard detail component. There's also parts of the construction documents that are less likely to change. Like we're less likely to have fewer doors, right? Because the layout is the layout. So we can start to document door hardware, we can start to document door hardware specifications, and things like that. What I would caution against is, say, charging ahead and doing an early site package if we may have to make large site changes. So we wouldn't want to do that. But there's components of the CD package that we can accelerate or comfortably move forward with. Maybe that's a better way to state it.
Lower risk.
Lower risk of change. And so, if we got into much more than a 5-week overlap, I'd be very concerned. I think, 5 weeks is kind of on the edge of comfortable to be able to do that. I don't know if you feel any differently.
Yeah, I would say that a month is good. Kim gave the example of doors. We know we're gonna have ceilings that are going to have soffit details and, wrap around pipes or ductwork or something. So we can put standard details into the package to show that, and it probably won't change. Bathrooms,
Restrooms, stairs, things like
lockers,
that.
you're gonna have a certain number of lockers. We can't cut them because we have a certain number of students. So you'll have a lot of things that, no matter what happens to pricing, we're not gonna change. And that's what we'll look at first.
Just so I completely understand, since this is all new, let's say there is something that is big and it changes. Do the changes get made because people work overtime and burn the midnight oil, and we pay more, or it just extends by a week and we pay more, or a combination of any of that? What is the effect of making the change?
Both things are possible. It depends on the extent of the changes required. So we could make changes within the normal course of the remaining course of the construction documents. Or if there's something dramatic that has to change and it requires us to like throw away some of the work that's already been done and restart it, then we would be looking at probably a longer duration.
And a cost problem. Your contract.
On ours?
Yeah, no, if you're self-correcting or if we're correcting because of field conditions or changes.
Right, if the changes are substantial and we have to.
It did have to be substantial.
Yes, there might be added services required.
But-
Depends on the extent.
But again, though, if, that would be a big concern if we were talking about employing this strategy here between schematic design, because that's where there's a lot of fluctuation there, right? There's definitely some course correction that's gonna happen as a result of that. But we're,
That's our first time to
Right.
really dive in and look at it.
Right.
So we wouldn't want to take that risk at that juncture.
right, exactly, which is why we never, right, that was never on the table of our discussion, because we've been down that road, and that's where those problems happen, when you're spending too much time redoing things.
Well, Ed said there's no change orders on this job, right? I'm not worried about it. It's important to see that.
You said you've done it before. And have you run into major problems on any of the ones that you've done? Like cost overruns, material, big change orders, things like that?
No, the projects where no, because we're going to, when we get to the schematic design estimate, we're gonna start to see really the correction that's gotta happen, and like I said, start to identify the add alternate list, or it's gonna put things into perspective of where are we in the range, and it helps, I think, the design team from the standpoint of, okay, if there's a couple routes here, if this is good, or this is, it helps to kind of reset those parameters a little bit. So we haven't seen it derail massively in the past. There'll be a value management exercise, and when each of these estimates, and there's a lot of conversations that happen among us, CSG, SLAM, the other estimator, and it's just days of conversation. So the idea is to keep the train going.
Yeah, and you said you've done it before, and when you've done it, are they always like the bigger jobs? Because there's more to them?
Nope, they're just jobs that, there's just jobs that we needed to take time out of pre-construction, because again, there's, unfortunately, we're trying to fit into certain completion dates, right? So you're not moving in the middle of the year or something, so that's where it happens. There's nowhere to absorb some of those delays, and you have to condense.
Right, in this public school market, we either want to move people in August or in December. And so if you have to make adjustments to the schedule like this, to hit one of those targets, that's a normal course of action.
Are we all comfortable with the bottom option?
Well, and there's not necessarily a need for a decision per se tonight, but it helps in the context of what you know as the expectation, because I'm sure people are probably asking you, well, when are things going to start and when's it going to be done? Look at it in this context. That if we do this approach, then between the December of '24 is when you'll be able to move in, and we'll be out there at the end of May, and essentially just about 1 year from now.
So when do you need to know by?
Really, we don't need to know until
June?
we're around here, yeah.
August?
Yeah, at the end, as we get to design development, really, it's SLAM that's gonna have to know so that they can allocate the in-house resources to commence with construction documents.
Right, to that point, it would be good to have a decision, say, a month before we would have to start, so we can make sure that we maintain our resources where they need to be.
Yes,
And, another construction job that you have done this at the same time, has it ever happened that you still had to go with the original date instead of moving it up 5 weeks?
Like, did you have?
oh, did we, at the end of the time, did we not save the 5 weeks?
Right.
I would say there's probably been a couple of times where maybe we didn't save the 5, we saved 4 weeks. We may have lost if, depending on one of these times with, if, compiling the estimate or reconciling, we could have lost a little time, but we've never lost the entire amount.
So if it was to move in December, you still moved in December, it was just, there was like 1 week kind
Correct.
of in between. It wasn't, you had to go till the next
No.
August.
No, and the idea here too is, we're talking, at this point in the project, we're talking about durations in months of time. When we get into construction, we're counting hours and minutes, right? So the idea is to make some correction now on a grand scheme so that we're not starting off construction behind the 8 ball, because we know things come up and we have to allow some time so that we're not at that threshold. If we have a horrible winter, we have to allow some contingency plan to make sure that the first thing that goes wrong doesn't derail the entire schedule. So we're trying to get some time up front so that we don't have to, so it doesn't make or break it at the end.
Sounds like a good plan.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
That's one other question.
Oh, one other
Sorry.
question, sorry.
So will that give us enough time to do the other gyms so that both gyms would be operational in the fall of 25, 26?
Yes, the ballpark we're thinking now is that in the initial schedule, there was, I think it was about 10 months of work from when we completed the new building to getting the existing building abated, demolished, and the new site work. We think that to do at the time you move into the new building, we then take over the entire existing facility, but we attack the existing gymnasium first, because we have to get that out of the way. We would have the new gym done in time for the start of the 25 school year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is that Amy sent us School Safety Design Committee. You want to just talk about it, Amy, and then?
Sure.
Because you have the notes there.
Thanks. No, I don't have those notes in front of me, but.
Now you do.
What do you?
There is a guidebook, it's published by the School Safety Infrastructure Council. And yes, there's a link to that document. It's readily available online.
Document right behind.
Oh, you actually printed the whole thing?
Oh, he's a big
There
printer.
it
He
is.
loves paper.
There is a link on. This document is a guideline because every community has a different level of security that they need and a different level of risk. And while we use the guideline and we always design to the minimum standards, then we look to a security committee in your district to guide us on those other security enhancements and how much further you want to take it. And so that's really a decision that gets made by the group that's suggested in the SSIC documents to include the emergency personnel, first responders, police chief, director of facilities, director of, well, certainly superintendent of schools and principals, so that the committee, the recommendations for who's on the committee is in there. And so that's a separate committee from the building committee, a subset or subset of your committee plus these additional folks who have that expertise. And so we'll work with that committee to really develop the intricacies of the design. We will be able to present to you at this committee level the standards that we're going to proceed with, high visibility to the entrances, reduced number of entrances and exits. So some of the overall standards that guide us in the design. But we will want to have that security committee make some of the more delicate decisions about level of ballistics on the glazing, locations of security cameras, who has access to security cameras. When you enter in the building, who does the check for people coming in and out, that kind of thing, and what systems you use to support that. There's a lot of electronics available now that support those systems. So we have a security consultant on board on our team who will help design those systems.
We met him. We wanted to talk about something else. So he came in and gave us a thing about the other schools, because we want to have a safety, we're looking for money from the state, but we want to have the high school is the number one, so everything, all the other schools have the same thing as the high school. We don't have 16 different cameras.
Different systems.
Right, you want oversight to be consistent throughout the district. And so Ally's been really integral in meeting with them as well, and she'll stay involved.
Does anybody on the building committee want to be in that committee? Okay, I'm on, okay. Robin, you're gonna be there
Yeah,
anyway.
you have no choice.
You don't get out of that.
Right.
Right.
Great. Set up the committee with the police chief, fire chief, John, Allison, and we'll get who else in the city?
Can I use someone else?
You want it? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Great. I want to call for executive session about contracts. Have a motion. So move Fiona. Second. Second. Case. At 7:15.